exactly what's going on. John's got a pretty solid hand. I see, obviously, the detention sphere. Looks like an Azorius charm. There is a dissipate, plenty of land. But Shane drops John down to 19 life with an attack from the Augur Bolus. And Augur number 2 from Shane. He has not played a land yet this turn. He's got plenty of options now. He'll take a Dissipate, send an Azorius Charm, and I did not catch the third one. Down to the bottom. Lays a Temple Guard and says go.
Looks like he possibly has a third one of those cards ready to come out for... if you would have played it, it would have been detained on that turn. Is that correct? It's anything with the same name for the detention
Yeah,
sphere?
the detention sphere grabs both copies of Augur Bolus. Shane accidentally dropped the third Augur just to let John know he didn't get quite max value for it. And there is the Augur. We take a think twice. So, yeah, as I said, I actually kind of like Shane to get the edge in this matchup here. I think the Elixir of Immortality could be very, very relevant in the matchup. Obviously, cards like Sigarda, if they go uncountered, will really help John get the game over quicker than anticipated, but Shane's got the extra Sphinx Revelations, he's got the Elixir, I believe more Dissipates. Let's see, no, 4 Dissipate for John, only 3 for Shane. And they both have the Jace Memory Adept, which isn't a card I usually see in this matchup, but I believe we've got John Wdowiasz down to, it should be 17 life at this point, it could be 16. And Shane should just be at the 18 from paying the shock land. The Nephalia's Drownir down on the board already for Shane. Means he's looking for a black mana as soon as humanly possible. That's really going to break the matchup wide open for him if he's able to start milling immediately. But in the meantime, it's going to help him end a turn. Flashback, I think twice.
Looks like he could possibly have some... Shane has some Farseeks maybe in his hand. I really can't get a good shot at the other ones yet.
I think that might have been a main... Yeah, that was a main phase. Think twice, trying to hit that land. And that's going to be a big problem for him if he's stuck on 4. Looks like we have a Sphinx Revelation for 2. It's going to put John up to 19 life. Draw him 2 cards. Yeah, John with, as you said, Farseek, Dissipate.
Now, typically in mirror matches like this, do they play out slow, or does just somebody get the better draw and it seems that they have the advantage right from the beginning?
Well, in a mid-range mirror match, you're going to see people kind of jump out to an advantage, and then Bonfire of the Dams will really be the thing that swings the board states. Maybe a Mizzium Mortars if it's played, but in a matchup like this, I tend to think the player that blinks first is the one that's at a disadvantage. Now, with that said, John's going to blink here. If he's got a threat, he's going to drop it, get it under counter magic. Unfortunately, he does not, but he's just going to keep ramping his mana. And a Farseek for Shane.
It looks like his third one in his hand, if I saw that properly.
He needs to get him out there and negate some of the disadvantage of not drawing these lands here. John's going to dissipate to make sure that does not happen. And Farseek number 2 from Shane. He was doing this before getting his beats on with the Augur of Bolus, which there they are. Dropping John down to 16 life, with Shane still at 18. And no black mana yet for Shane to activate that Nephalia Drownir.
For the people that are watching and for myself that are familiar with the Augur, exactly what does his abilities and powers, what is he doing there, and what's he swinging for? He's swinging for 2?
With the Augur, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
That's a 1/3, so he's just getting a little poke in there. And a tapped out Shane Kelly cannot counter the Sigarda. Could be a backbreaker without a board sweep. It's going to take a Divine Verdict here. It should be pretty immediate, but that Cavern of Souls is going to help Shane tremendously once he starts to get his own. creatures in his hand, and I'm assuming that's on Beast so that he can resolve all of his Thragtusks. But interesting, Tamiyo, I think 2 dissipates in Shane's hand, so if he can start to draw a couple lands and be able to cast multiple permission spells in one turn, he'll be in a pretty good spot. But best card in his hand is Tamiyo, and he really can't play that right now and just get it wiped out by the Sigarda, which can't be tapped. So we had an update on the life totals here. John Wdowiasz is at 19, Shane Kelly at 18. Looks like we must have only had the 1 poke from the Augur of Bolas's. Oh, I'm sorry. There was 2 life gains, so there was 3 damage from Augurs and then 2 more life from Sphinx Revelation.
Now, for anybody just tuning in, this is the first game of the second round of the Gamecorp Series Championship 2. We're live here from Gamecorp in Wesleyville. And if anybody hasn't been out here to the store yet, we do great tournaments several times a week. Owner John really focuses on giving away great prizes. He's been a professional on the tour in the past, so his advice is top in the area for helping players too. I'm a relatively new player.
You gotta talk louder, or he's gonna turn the mic up. Turn the mic up to get more interference. So you probably gotta talk
Speaking of the wonderful owner John, he's right on top of us, making sure that you guys can understand what's going on here at the store. So stop by next time you're in the area and check out what's going on. So what phase are we at now here?
Well, it looks like it's Shane's turn here. John attacked for 5 with a Sigarda and put Shane down to 13 life. So really Shane has to answer here, and he uses that Cavern of Souls to get the Thragtusk on the board, gain him 5 life, which will leave Shane at 18. And a Detention Sphere number 2 from John Wdowiasz takes down Thragtusk, leaving Shane with the 3/3 Beast. John draws Farseek. Looks like he's got a lot of land in his hand, but if Shane had the board sweep, he would have played it already, gotten it in before.
Now, as a quick gameplay strategy I'm not aware of, with the Detention Sphere, taking Thragtusk out and turning him and putting a 3/3 Beast creature on, if the Detention Sphere is countered somehow and comes off, when he comes back as Thragtusk, does he gain 5 more lives, and does he remove that 3/3 Beast creature? How exactly would that play work out?
Well, if the Detention Sphere gets countered, whether it be by Dissipate or any other card, it's not going to remove the Thragtusk, so the Thragtusk will just stay there. But if, say, a Ray of Revelation or one of these cards that just frankly isn't going to be in the main board of these decks happens to kill that Detention Sphere, then you would get the Thragtusk back, you gain the 5 life, and then when it leaves play, you would obviously get the...
Now, does that original 3/3 Beast creature still remain on the board?
Yep, nothing will happen to that beast unless it's killed by John or, blocked in combat or however that's going to work. But looks like we have attack for 3 from Shane Kelly, and we're going to get a life total update. We have 13 for John Wdowiasz and I believe 6 for Shane Kelly.
Or Wdowiasz has 16, Shane Kelly has 13.
16-13? Okay, 16-13. John Wdowiasz over Shane Kelly at the moment. Life totals in Game 1 here. Round 2 of the Gamecorp Series Championship number 2. The winner today will be taking home a foil Jace the Mind Sculptor, with the runner-up taking home a sealed Commander's Arsenal. 3rd and 4th get a foil Jace Architect of Thought, and the rest of the top 8 will be taking home some store credit. Shane Kelly falls down to 8 life here with a swing from Sigarda. And Shane is going to then gain 5 life, go back up to 13, draw 5 cards, really hope to hit that board sweep. He's going to need to hit that soon.
Now, what cards is he looking for to be able to draw here that are really going to be able to help him?
Well, not that Hinterland Harbor for the most part. I mean, really the first answer he needs is Supreme Verdict. If it's not a Supreme Verdict, Thragtusks, just to kind of stall the game out, leave it going. But John Wdowiasz has his Alchemist Refuge in play, so now all his creatures have flash. He's going to be able to land things, and I think we're going to see an instant speed Jace Architect of Thought at the end of this turn. Shane gets an attack in for 3, drops John Wdowiasz down to 13 life. Both of these players have spent time on the game court. Championship team, sponsored team. John traveled with me as part of the team representing them to Toronto for the Grand Prix. John finished, I want to say, 56th or so inside the money. A fellow team member at the time, Vince Tundo, also finished in the money, just a couple spots ahead of John. And I did day 2 myself, but unfortunately I did not place in the money. And there it is, an instant speed planeswalker. That's a Jace, Architect of Thought. Shane has to make a decision about counterspelling this now, and then John gets to just untap cleanly if it resolves. He obviously can't know that there's, really only land left in John Wdowiasz's hand, but it gets the Dissipate anyways, and John will untap, hoping to draw well here, but that Sigarda is still on the board, and a 3rd land in hand now for John Wdowiasz. So the pressure is going to have to get him there. He'll attack for 5, bring Shane Kelly back down to 8, lay his land, and pass the turn. And it looks like now we're going to see a Sphinx Revelation for 6. Another one of those cards that really just kind of time walks the combat step, gets him closer and closer to that Divine Verdict. And really, if he can start to get that, nope, looks like it's only for 3, so Shane is going to go from 8 up to 11. And I believe John Wdowiasz is at 10. I don't think we accounted for the last beast attack. We'll get an update for you as soon as we can. And we got another beast attack, which would bring John down to 7. And Shane Kelly is at 11 right now.
It appears that both players have more than enough mana base to really drop something monstrous. What would be a game-ending card here for either one of the players that they could top deck?
Well, the best draw for John is one of his 2... I'm blanking right now. The 2 Sphinx's Revelations in his deck are really probably his best draws. He's got so many lands out. He really just needs a little extra time. It looks as though he drew a Dissipate, which will keep Shane from ending the game faster, but John attacks, knocks Shane down to 6 life. And they're kind of just trading blows here. So I have Shane Kelly at 6, John Wdowiasz at 4. Boy, there's just a lot of land in hand from both players.
Could you repeat the line?
John Wdowiasz should be at 4.
I'm watching you guys live stream. There's no way it's not obvious that Sigarda just hit him for 5. Like that can easily be noticed.
And
He's
yep,
at 11.
and
Shane. Wow, that's gonna go 6.
Yep, and Shane's at 6.
He finally
Tameo.
played his Tameo there. Now, what exactly is he looking to do with her? Because this late in the game, is he going to be able to build her up enough to do something game-changing?
Well, the +1 ability won't do him very much here, so what he's actually going to do, I believe, is just draw a card. He's going to -2 the Tameo, draw a card. It's almost like a bait here to see if he can get John to attack the Tameo and extend his clock. John's just going to let this resolve. Yeah, it looks like he does. And we actually do see a plus of Tameo on the Alchemist Refuge, because the 1 card is pretty trivial at this point as well. But we do have a black mana now to activate that Nephalia Drownyard. And it won't be this turn, because there's that Supreme Verdict that we were looking for. Can't be countered, so the Dissipate in John's hand isn't very, very effective in this spot. John now has a Restoration Angel. So he passes the turn. This will allow him to get the Restoration Angel to attack at the Tameo without being +1 and tapped for an extended period of time through the untap step on the following turn. Tameo, once you get that emblem out, is pretty game-breaking, especially in a control deck. It would give Shane infinite counterspells, infinite Wrath of God effects, infinite card draw, infinite life linking guys. I mean, just all of his cards never go anywhere. And he can keep recycling his creatures, so as soon as the opponent answers it, then you're pretty well stuck. So you've got to keep him off. And it looks like the Restoration Angel might actually just go after Shane's life total, but not before it eats an Azorius Charm, is what I believe Shane is considering. The Azorius Charm would put it on top of the deck, really help to protect the Tamiyo.
Now with how this match is playing out, what do you think and some of your best guess for what they're going to be sideboarding so they can, now they've seen a lot of each other's cards, they're starting to understand that they're playing very similar decks. Is there one sideboard that's going to be an advantage over the other one?
Well, I'm looking here. I do see that John Wdowiasz has access to a Ray of Revelation in his sideboard. Also 2 Geist of St. Traft, 3 Loxodon Smiters. Basically, I expect John to try to take a little bit more of an aggressive stance here. I'm not sure how familiar he is with Shane's list, but he's going to be out-controlled if that's his game plan. So he needs to use a good mix of control and aggressiveness here, because he's just not going to win the long game against a deck that plays Elixir of Immortality and 2 extra Sphinx's Revelations. He's got to try to bait out the Supreme Verdicts and get a little extra damage in as Tamiyo gets up to 7 counters, keeps the Alchemist Refuge from allowing John to play things at instant speed. But a Jace Architect of Thought from John. It's going to eat a Dissipate here from Shane, I believe. And I think we're only a brief amount of time away from Shane with a Tamiyo emblem. Kind of taking this game over a little bit. It's interesting, he will be out of cards, so now it'll come down to his ability to draw useful things to abuse with the Tamiyo emblem, rather than just have them in hand. But that Dissipate is going to meet a Dissipate of John's, and this actually could be a pretty interesting game here. John has the ability to -2 that Jace, reveal a Thragtusk, and then cast it. And Shane really doesn't have any answers for that. He's going to have to tap it, and there's that Thragtusk, and also a Restoration Angel.
Now, if you were in this position, what pile would you be picking? Or he's separating and he's picking the pile, which one he's going to take. What would it come down to for a decision over being able to blast more power, gain some lives? What's the decision here?
Well, Shane's got to split up those piles first before anything can happen. I believe John laid a recommendation down for him. Obviously, Shane's under no obligation to accept it, although I think he left it there. These players know each other very well. They both make a minimum number of mistakes, so there could have been some verbal communication there. If those are the piles, John's got... I may have taken the Restoration Angel because I can flash it in and get an attack on that Tamiyo to keep it off the ultimate, if it's what I decide I want to do. Now, John gets the Thragtusk down.
So now he's going to take the life count up to 9 for himself, if the life correct is on our screen here, and put himself 3 ahead of Shane.
That is correct, yeah. He will gain 5, go to 9. Tamiyo taps the Thragtusk, 1 turn away from the ultimate here. John's really going to have to answer that. Shane's got the Nephalia's Drownyard in play, and the interesting thing with the Tamiyo emblem and the Nephalia's Drownyard is that, oh wow, Angel of Serenity is a pretty big draw for John. He's going to get some more card advantage out of his Jace. Ooh, see, this is a game now.
Now it's a different Jace that he pulled there. Is that correct? Or is that the one that for a second power he's going to be able to make him discard cards without a cost?
No, this is the one that for 0 mills 10 off the top of your opponent's deck. It's going to be interesting, though, because in one more turn, I believe he took the Restoration Angel there, but in one more turn what's going to happen is, that Jace would eventually just be drawing Shane 10 cards. He would mill him 10, and Shane would put him to his hand instead. And with an unlimited hand size, it would get very ugly for John very quickly. And the goal would then become to try to mill him out. But he made the correct play, I believe. He took the Restoration Angel. He can now blink the Thragtusk after it's been tapped by Tamiyo, which I don't believe it will be. And really, John might be in a strong position to win on next turn. Shane draws a Thragtusk of his own, takes the emblem. I expect to see a Thragtusk played here from Shane. He's got Dissipate, Thragtusk, Sun Petal Grove.
Now, we actually don't have a timer that we can see here from our booth, but would time start being a consideration on these players that have the chance of going into a draw and having another lengthy game come up after this one? We have been going for quite a while. Is there a strategy or a way you can kind of go around the time, or do you want to use the time to your advantage if you win this match and kind of draw it into a draw so you can take it away as a win?
Well, I think it really comes down to the situation here. I think John is about ready to scoop. He does get an instant speed Angel of Serenity. The reason he did that is because that Dissipate's not going to go away. It's going to go back into Shane's hand now that the Tamiyo emblem is in play. This is going to give John the ability to get some extra gas. The Alchemist Refuge there is really invaluable, but we have a dissipated, what was that? Dissipated Restoration Angel, and then the Instant Speed Angel, all on Shane's turn. So now there's a lot of attacks about to happen here, and we'll have to see what Shane can do about it. And Alchemist Refuge gets activated. I think we might see a Nephalia's Drownyeard activation targeting himself just to draw those cards. Instant Speed Thragtusk will bring Shane up to 11 life. And he's going to trade, which means he takes, was that 4 or 5 damage from the Angel of Serenity there. We'll have to get an answer for you. Any of our listeners can feel free to supply that information as well. And really, as each turn passes here and Shane has the Tamiyo emblem, it gets worse and worse here for John. But it looks like Shane took 5 here, drops back down to 6. The Thragtusk's traded. Unfortunately, that means a Thragtusk back to the hand for Shane.
So now at this point, Shane's going to be able to essentially just gain 5 lives every single turn with that token. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to find a way to kill the Thragtusk every turn in order to make that happen, but he does draw a Detention Sphere, which he wishes could remove Detention Spheres, but unfortunately it can't. This game's really just slipping away from John Wdowiasz at this point. Shane is all but wrapped it up. You know, you mentioned the time frame earlier. This is a spot where John needs to consider conceding to try to finish games 2 and 3. John playing in his first round of the tournament with a bye in the first round. He earned it through accruing points through the championship series all season long. As I said, a former member of the sponsored team, which shakes up every year at the time of the series championship. So John will be awaiting a decision as to whether or not he'll be reinvited, as well as myself and a few other players. Obviously, sponsored travel is something everybody hopes to get. We have a pause here in that card draw. We did see the card, which is a bit of a no-no, but it'll have to, as the players are okay with it, then that was probably a pretty quick decision on Shane's part. So you have an instant speed. Maybe I'm wrong as where we are, but a Detention Sphere nonetheless targeting the Angel of Serenity. John will have to make up his mind as to how he wants to respond to that. I don't think he has any dissipates left, although it would be a very strong card for him to draw because he could get rid of the dissipate in Shane's hand. The fact that it exiles the card is very significant when you're fighting a Tamiyo emblem, but as I said, not too much that John Wdowiasz can do to try to win this game. His best play might just be to scoop him up and move on at this point. And just to remind everybody, this is round 2 of the Game Course Series Championship. The second one of these tournaments that has been run here at the Erie Game Course store on Buffalo Road in Wesleyville, Pennsylvania. It looks as though that Detention Sphere resolves, removes the Angel of Serenity, returns a whole slew of Thragtusk back to John Wdowiasz's hand, and really those are his game plan at this point. He's got to try to get enough pressure on the board before Shane can draw the completely lethal Supreme Verdict.
How much time is left in this?
Around 17 minutes and 3 seconds.
We just got word on time that we're down to about 17 minutes left, and with them still in their first game, they've eaten up most of the clock. I'm not sure exactly how that would play out in the favor of the loser in this match, but the winner of this match is clearly going to have a time advantage, I think.
Yeah, I think there's probably also a time extension here with the feature match. Typically it takes an extra 3 to 5 minutes to get the camera situated, get everything ready to go, and that time will go back to those players. So I guess they probably have in the area of 22 to 23 minutes remaining in the round. But as I said, John's going to need that time here. It doesn't look like there's much he can do. That Tamiyo emblem that did get officially added to the screen for us here, doing a lot of work here for Shane, and really should be enough to take this game for him.
Hey, with Jace, who separates the piles? I can't remember.
The opponent.
The opponent separates. So why in God's name did Wdowiasz not take the Restoration Angel so he could flash it in and hit?
He did.
Oh, I thought he took the Thragtusk. No, he.
First time he took the Thragtusk.
When Tamiyo was at 7 counters, he could take the Thragtusk or Restoration Angel in a land, and he took the Thragtusk.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he started to take the resto. I don't know. I was kind of with you on that. I thought it was.
Well, at the time, I didn't know who picked. I thought it was the other way around, but and that allowed Tamiyo to alt. Did you mention Wdowieasz's 2 money finishes in the Grand Prix recently?
Yeah, I talked about Toronto. Also, as the owner John Gopinski reminded me, John Wdowiasz also finished 9th at Grand Prix Philadelphia that was returned to Ravnica sealed. He placed with a record that could have put him into the top 8, but unfortunately he bubbled out. And really, John's been on a very successful string of play here. He's been playing at a high level and doing it where it counts the most as these guys trade beast tokens. And looks like Supreme Verdict, Thragtusk, Sigarda on board in hand for John Wdowiasz. He draws Hinterland Harbor.
Total is 11 Shane, 9 Wdowiasz.
All right, so it looks like we missed a Thragtusk player for Shane. We're bringing his life total up to 11. I'm not sure what John's doing, still playing this game, with time being as big a factor as it is. He's seen a dissipate. There's really nothing he can do. He needs to get into game 2 so that he's got time to try to win games 2 and 3 here. Really would have liked to have seen him concede by now, but he's going to try to stick a Thragtusk here. He can always instant speed, play another one. My guess is it's going to be Sigarda that he plays. And really that's his path to victory here. So if
So it's going to take him up to 14 and give him the life total lead.
Yep.
But like you're saying, he's kind of frozen, and if Shane takes him out with no time left to continue on, it's going to be
John Wdowiasz.
A draw for the second game.
Yeah, and Shane has really failed to give any indication that he plans to Nephalia's Drownyard himself in order to draw a couple extra cards. And really, I think that would be a big boon for him. As once he sees a Supreme Verdict, he's in the driver's seat and really can let John resolve these Thragtusks and not fight over him too much and not risk his own Dissipate, meeting a Dissipate from John, which is, I think John's plan at this point. He needs to draw a Dissipate. He needs to stick this Sigarda. And, but we'll have to see how Shane responds to, if I can, Farseek.
Does John have a Cavern in play? Is that why he's getting past Dissipate here? Or? John doesn't have Cavern. He's not running it.
Now, not being in too many tournaments, how exactly does it play out for the timing factor here? If it goes and time runs out, and this first game's all that was played, that person automatically gets the win for the series, or exactly how does the timing in the other games play out that way?
Yeah, so let's assume for a second that Shane Kelly wins this game, is 1-0 going into game 2, and the time expires and that game doesn't finish. Shane Kelly will be awarded a 1-0 win. It really only has an impact in tiebreakers, but in larger events, typically it's not very relevant, as the Nefalia's Drownyard continues to put John Wdowiasz on a clock.
But for John, that would be very critical for him starting with a bye, even though the bye is going to count in his favor a little bit. Taking a loss in this first round, that would set him behind further than they'd want to be. Is that correct?
Well, the bye counts just like a win. It gives them just as many points. Doesn't affect the tiebreakers, and really, you buys are where you want to be. You want to not have those opponents that have the potential to go and lose out and really impact your tiebreakers. So I would expect John to be in the top of the 1-1 bracket as far as breakers are concerned after this one if he does drop the match. But for the most part, with an event like this, it's going to be 6 rounds of Swiss today, so these guys are looking to have a 4-2 record at the end of the day, and yeah, not much else should matter. I don't see tiebreakers playing a big role. 1, maybe 2 players will bubble out, but not playing. And typically the players that lose in the first round or 2 are the ones that bubble out. So if you start 0-2 and then win your next 4, you'll be at the bottom of those tiebreakers. Is generally how things play out, but.
Now, just with the time ticking down as low as it is, if this game runs into where this is the first game, they then go into turns on this game, and this could just be a draw for both players?
Yeah, if this match ends in a 0-0 draw, it actually counts as a loss for both players. The only way it would count as a draw where they each get 1 point would be if they went 1-1 and drew. But a 0-0 draw gives them 0 points. And now we see in response to the Dissipate, John's sticking the Sigarda while the Dissipate's stuck on the stack and unable to be cast by Shane Kelly.
What was John doing there with that other Thragtusk in his hand? That went over to his graveyard?
I believe that got dissipated.
Okay.
So,
This just in, the reason Wdowiasz hasn't scooped is because Shane's pretty sure that he can't win unless he rips the Sphinx's Revelation.
well, there's definitely a lot of power here. John's in a much better board state than I thought. Actually, John's the one with the board sweeper here. So he gets an attack in for 5 with Sigarda. Brings Shane down to, I believe, 6, but I think Shane's missing a pretty tactically advantageous play of Nefalia's Drownyarding himself to just draw 3 cards with the Tamiyo emblem. If there's specific cards he needs to hit, like Sphinx's Revelation, he's really doing himself a disservice by not milling himself there as fast as possible. He can't even mill the Elixir's Immortality because that would just go back to his hand as well, and he would be able to play that. So Shane needs to be seeing as many cards as humanly possible, and instead he is just trying to mill out John.
Now, he did play a Thragtusk there. It would take him back up to 11 to counter his life total there.
Yeah, so life totals remain 14 to 11, we believe. Could be missing an activation from John.
Oh, Shane just gained 5, right, from the Thragtusk?
Yeah, it took 5 from the Sigarda before, okay. So it should be, I think 14-11's right. If anything, it might be 19-11, but I don't think so. And there goes a Jace Architect of Thought from Shane Kelly.
Shane said during the match that he was trying to mill Wdowiasz's Elixir.
Pretty much here,
Now, that's going to help him draw the cards that you're saying that he's been needing. Is that correct?
Yeah, hopefully. And there's a Think Twice, which with the amount of mana that he has is really, every 2 mana draw a card. And the way this will work is oh, they go on the bottom. Okay, so Shane actually does not just get all 3 cards. But either way, Shane was just going to take the Think Twice and continue to draw as many cards as he can. But, I mean, it's worth noting, as good as that Think Twice is, it costs less mana to see an extra card if he's just using the Nefalia's Drownyeard on himself.
Now, if he gets Jace all the way up to his final counter step, what is Jace going to be capable of doing here in this game?
I don't think Jace is really going to live long enough to -8. You know, they're going to kill him themselves if they have to. One of the best things you can do with a Jace is just -2 it twice if your opponent's going to leave it there. And John might not really have too much choice. He needs to get aggressive. He needs to be attacking Shane before Shane draws into these answers. And this will be a big turn for Shane. He's going to think twice probably.
Oh, he's going to take that 5 life and drop back down to 6?
Yep, so it'll be 14-6. John Wdowiasz in the lead. Shane with the Tamiyo emblem in play, and the Think Twice in hand. So we're going to count John's library here. I think it was in the area of 6 or so. So at this point, the Nefalia's Drownyeard should be attacking John. But if he needs to see a Sphinx's Revelation, which is, rumor has it, that's what's going on in there, is Shane's trying to dig for a Sphinx's Revelation, obviously to keep the life totals up. But this is a pretty good reason why you don't concede. You know, I said I think John should have scooped it up, and really I think Shane's done himself a disservice and cost himself a few cards, and it really gave John an opening. And it doesn't look like it's going to matter too much, but two attack steps is going to be pretty difficult for John to come by, and that's what he'll need here. He could also potentially draw into a Celestia Charm to pump the Sigarda, which would make one more attack all that he needs, but Shane's going to untap, draw his card, and it was a Terminus. So there was no miracle cost there.
He played it in Sphinx Speed, so.
We'll have to wait and see exactly how this plays out.
Now, Terminus, that's going to make it so if he plays that, the creatures have to return to the bottom of their libraries. Is that the correct play on that?
That's correct, yeah. That would put all creatures in the bottom of the library. And interestingly, Shane attacks with the Thragtusk, gets blocked by John's Thragtusk. It puts the Thragtusk back in Shane's hand. I think if I was John, I might have taken that damage, dropped to 9. Not too much pump or combat tricks that can happen here. 9's a decently safe life total. And
Now, did Shane just play that Thragtusk, so he's back up to 11?
Shane has not recast the Thragtusk yet. It's still in his hand. All his mana's open. He's going to -2 that Jace again. Look at 3 more cards.
Is that 6 minutes? 14.
And there's that Sphinx's Revelation. So there's your split. Shane's just going to pick up the Sphinx's Revelation. He's got to be careful with it, though. The Dissipate in John's hand, if Shane gets greedy and taps out for it, that's the opening John needs to take over the game and get the clincher here. But
I think that's way too much mana for that to be really.
Now, Sphinx Revelation's not a card I'm familiar with, being a new player. What exactly were we waiting for to see what comes into play?
Oh, well, Sphinx's Revelation gains, it costs 3 mana and X. The target player gains through X life and draws X cards. So really the idea here in Shane's deck is that he's got an unlimited hand size. He's got all that mana. He just wants to keep tapping out, playing the Sphinx's Revelation, draw all the cards in his deck, play an Elixir of Immortality, shuffle his graveyard back into his library, and go from there. So Shane Kelly's going to go back up to 11 life as he recast the Thragtusk.
You can tell by just his hand gestures there after pulling that Sphinx that he's a little bit more confident, it seems like, with his hand now.
He is, and these players seem pretty content to just, have this be a 1-0 game. Not much chance of a game 2 finishing at any point. Obviously, I expect them to try as John has more of a creature-based deck and is able to sideboard into more creatures. But really, it looks like this is likely to be a 1-0 Shane Kelly victory for round 2 is the way I'm reading things right now.
know if we can get
Yeah,
anybody to give us a time read here to see what they have left in the
like about 4 minutes.
championship.
Yeah,
We're just updated. There's probably about 4 minutes left. With their extension, there could be another 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah. Do one of you want to eat pizza?
So these guys have 9 minutes left in the round, and basically it's going to come down to John Wdowiasz is going to need a very aggressive start here in the sideboard. They might want to get updated that they have that 5-minute time extension. Okay, they were updated, so they're aware of it, and they're moving to sideboard. So,
do one of you want to eat pizza, and I'll step in for you? I just wasn't sure if you wanted that for the next game.
I think one of us is going to take a break here, and owner of GameCore, John Gopinski, is going to hop on the mic. I believe I'll stay on with John here. Sean's going to go take a break. John was nice enough to buy us some lunch, so lucky Sean gets to eat it while it's hot, and we'll.
It's not.
it's apparently not hot anymore, but what can you do? Well, thanks for joining us, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's a couple of your old sponsored players here.
Yeah. Well, it was a good matchup. I figured something everybody would want to see.
Yeah, there's nothing like watching people gain 400 life or so in a match. I think there was around 250 damage dealt throughout the course of that match, but it took a while to finally end it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the control and control matchup can get pretty tedious, but at the same time, for people interested in playing the deck, they have to be aware that at bigger tournaments, especially, you're going to run into that. So this is an opportunity for newer players or players that really want to understand the nuances of this matchup to get in here and kind of see some of the strategy from some of the better players in the area. Yeah, I mean, and obviously, at some point when you're playing that control matchup, you do, I kind of heard what you were talking about, and, maybe it would have been a little too soon for John to scoop it up. But, I mean, by miscalculating the way the game was going to go, I mean, he pretty much sealed his fate in this first game. There's obviously no chance that he wins 2 games and takes the match. The best thing that he can hope for now is that they get through this sideboarding decently quick, and perhaps he gets a quick victory to end it with a draw.
Yeah, he's the one with the more aggressive sideboard package, as well as really the main board. He brings in 2 Geist to St. Traft, 3 Loxodon Smiters, and obviously the Sigarda was a big factor in that game, even though it wasn't good enough for him to get the win in the first game. But he's definitely the one that's able to take a more aggressive approach. Only the 1 Cavern of Souls is going to help keep Shane's Dissipates active for him. Looking to see it. Shane has 2 of them himself, so there's not a big edge there, but anytime you're playing uncounterable creatures in a matchup like this, you're going to be the one dictating the way the game is played.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a newer card here. I mean, I guess some of you might have noticed it coming up in some of these control decks here, but it's got to be really good in this mirror match here is Shane Kelly has 2 Curse of Echoes in his sideboard. For those of you who aren't familiar with what that does, I mean, it's going to copy any instant or sorcery that John Wdowiasz plays, so any kind of counterspell war, John is at a decided disadvantage at this point.
Yeah, Curse of Echoes costs 4 generic mana, 1 blue. It's an aura curse, so you enchant a player with it. Whenever enchanted player casts an instant or sorcery spell, each other player may copy that spell and may choose new targets for the copy he or she controls. So as soon as John tries to dissipate Shane's spell, Shane copies the dissipate, counters the original dissipate, and the spell resolves. And for other cards like Board Sweeps, Supreme Verdict, it really isn't very relevant, except in the fact that both sides of Thragtusk will go away when a Curse of Echoes is in play and a Supreme Verdict gets cast.
Yep, that's good stuff. We did want to just mention some stuff. This is Gamecore's first actual live stream. We intend to do more of these. Typically, we're going to shoot for about once per month. That was the time and round, so these guys have 5 minutes to get it on here before they'll go to turn. So we'll see where they can play this out. We're looking at our next potential live stream being the pre-release for Gate Crash. There will be more information to come. If you have not liked us on Facebook.com/GamecoreLLC, that's a good way to find out about all the tournaments we have going on. We have a little event center right in there. I generally have the events put in there about a month or 2 in advance. I don't really start spamming them out there for everybody to see until like maybe a week or two beforehand, just to keep it fresh in everybody's minds.
And just to answer somebody's question in chat here, Shane Kelly won Game 1 off the back of a Tamiyo emblem. John Wdowiasz here has the Sigarda in hand. A couple of Farseeks from each player to ramp the mana, and really it's exactly what John needed here. He could really use a Cavern of Souls, but he's instead going to lay a tapped Temple Garden and pass the turn.
Yeah, you can tell both players have expedited their play. I don't know that it behooves Shane Kelly to do so, but you know, these two were part of the first season sponsored team, so you know, they are very cordial, they're very friendly, so you know, both of them making sure to be good guys to each other.
John Wdowiasz sticks a Thragtusk here to bring his life total up to 25. Don't know that anybody took 2 life off of a Shockland here. Life totals may not be exactly perfect, but it'll be 25 to 20 for Shane Kelly at the moment. I'm sorry, for John Wdowiasz at the moment. And looks like John stuck. Oh, I'm sorry. Shane enchants John with the Curse of Echoes that we were talking about. This will be a very pivotal card. However, there does not seem to be very many counterspells active in these players' hands. And that curse is going to eat a Detention Sphere immediately. John will battle with the Thragtusk, take Shane down to 15.
Shane to 15.
And now John actually has a Dissipate. I don't know if we missed it in his hand or not. Has the mana open to do it, so it'll be interesting to see what Shane wants to do here to try to attack this matchup, as there is a Sigarda, Tamiyo, and Thragtusk in his hand, and he'll lead with the Tamiyo. With an immediate Dissipate from John, who, as we said, needs to pick things up if he's going to win.
Yeah, I think Tamiyo would have dragged the game out far too long for what John needs to accomplish here. And it's actually looking really good for John to finish this thing up here.
Gets that Sigarda down.
I mean, barring a Wrath effect out of Shane.
Which he does not have.
Well, it looks like he has his own Sigarda to deal with the Sigarda. Obviously, Azorius Charm on a Thragtusk isn't ideal, but when you're talking about an incremental number of turns that you have to finish the game, so that I believe that drops Shane to 10. Is that accurate? Did we miss that?
No, that attack should bring Shane down to 10 life. Another thing here I'm seeing in chat, congratulations, Kitten, on your acceptance to college there.
I must have missed that one.
Somebody was wondering who won Game 1, and Kitten couldn't answer because they were too excited. And
okay, so Shane goes up to 15 with this one.
John has that Angel of Serenity, though, now. To have that 5 power in the air really surprisingly might be able to get things done here, but I think we're going to start to see some Azorius Charms being held in reserve for Shane Kelly to deal with that Angel, which has dropped Shane down to 10 life again.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what...
Ooh. It's a Resto Angel for Shane.
Yeah, and I really feel like the John Wdowiasz really needed to swing with that Thragtusk last turn. I think he's fine with it trading. You know, he just needs to stay aggressive and push everything out there. Because then he ends up with the 3-3. Shane doesn't have the Thragtusk, you know, obviously in this situation. I'm pretty sure that with the amount of time, you know, Shane is successfully stabilized, barring a not miracle card miracle by John Wdowiasz.
And here's your Restoration Angel. We'll blink the Thragtusk, bring Shane back up to 15. And I don't see a block, so Shane will actually fall back down to 10 life.
Yep, so Shane took another 5. So he took the 5, and now he's going to fall back down to 10.
Is he going to get aggressive here? Because there is that mode on Azorius Charm that says creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. It seems pretty relevant when you're just trying to buy a few turns and sneak away a 1-0 win.
Yeah, you know, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to send somebody now. I'm not sure if it's been... Hey, do they know that... Is it... Open that door.
What's the negative timer?
Okay, so that's time and round. Make sure they know that's time. They're already in time?
Okay.
Okay, so they're in time now. And so what Jim's talking about is the lifelink node on Azorius Charm. You know, at this point, I don't think he necessarily. I guess when you say aggressive, you mean just getting aggressive with protecting himself, because obviously he doesn't need to win the game.
No, he doesn't need to win, but just I mean that's 11 life he can gain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which seems pretty relevant. Obviously, when you're in turns and you're just trying to live, but Shane opts to not attack. Maybe he's assuming John's gonna battle in here, and maybe he can do it while blocking. But I don't know, or maybe he just plans to use the primary mode on the charm and put something on top of the deck. We'll have to wait and see. But
well, that's the thing about Azorius Charm is it gives you a couple of options. So there's different ways that players can look at it. Everybody's got a little bit of a different play style. But you could very well be right. Maybe just swinging in there, getting some dudes off the board, and putting his life total at an insurmountable number for what he's got going on.
With the Tamiyo tapping the Angel of Serenity, though, keeping it tapped, I should say, really there wasn't much pressure on the board from John, who did play a Restoration Angel, brings his life total up to what I believe to be 30, and netted him another beast. So kind of stalemated the board a little bit here.
I mean, if there's one thing that is obvious from this board state, it's that John Wdowiasz loves fatties. Right, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, he's just got it branded on his sleeves, and he's got nothing but fatties on the board, so that's really probably the most fatties you can see in a control deck, I think, for the most part. When a deck's designated control, typically you won't see a board cluttered up by as many creatures.
I think this is what Shane was looking for, right? So he's going to be like, I'm just going to gain a ton of life. Hey, good game, buddy.
Yeah, block. We get a whole bunch of trades. I'm going to gain 11. We each still have a Restoration Angel and a Beast.
And what is that, a Dissipate in Wdowiasz's hand? Not that it matters with Shane holding double Azorius Charm, but at least John feels like he has a chance still.
I don't recall seeing a Dissipate. I haven't. I didn't see the card he drew at the start of this turn, though, so that could very well be the Dissipate. It sure is. Yeah. So how many other cards does Shane have other than that second Azorius Charm?
It doesn't look like anything else, but I'm guessing he's got a couple because he's had a hand here for a little bit.
It seems like all these decks do is draw cards and gain life, so it's pretty rare to see them both get down this low. We were talking at the beginning, we felt that Shane had a pretty significant advantage. We were pretty surprised to see the one of Jace Memory Adept in both lists. You wonder how much they were talking to each other before the beginning of the event, and I was especially surprised that they weren't a factor. There was not a single mill for 10 as we take a look at John Wdowiasz's hand cam here.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that game one. I was watching from an actual live stream, and I believe Wdowiasz had activated a Jace Architect of Thought trigger and drawn some cards, and he didn't opt to take the Jace Memory Adept, and I actually thought that could be a win condition that Shane Kelly might have a really hard time dealing with. And after watching that game go on for a while, I don't actually see what Shane ever would have done to deal with it.
Well, I think he might have done some math to realize that the -10s weren't going to catch up to the -3s from the Nephalia Drowned that Shane was using, and it does indeed look as though this is going to end in a 1-0 win for Shane. We'll get a confirmation for you, and if that's the case, maybe we'll bring Shane in to talk to Mr. Gopinski here and see how that match went for him.
Yeah, that sounds good.